So moving on to the second part of our program today, I'm honored to introduce author Kamla Kapur, who has just recently arrived back from her trip to India for the staging of her play at the National School of Drama in New Delhi. Welcome, Kamla. Kamla was born and raised in India, and she studied in the US. Her writings have included plays, novels, poetry, essays, and reimagining Indian spiritual writing. Her critically acclaimed books include Ganesha Goes to Lunch, Classics from the Mystic India, Rumi's Tales from the Silk Road, Pilgrimage to Paradise. Her latest book, The Singing Guru, is based on the Janamsakhis of Guru Nanak, the first Sikh Guru. Her highly praised books of poetry are As a Fountain in a Garden and Radha Sings. She has won the Sultan Padamsee Award for 2 of her plays, Kamya and Zanana. Her plays, Kepler Dreams, Hamlet's Father, and Clytemnestra, were showcased at the Marin Shakespeare Festival here in San Francisco, amongst others. Her poetry and short stories have appeared in Yellow Silk, Journal of Literature and Aesthetics, and the anthology Our Feet Walk the Sky. These are just some of her distinguished accomplishments. The list, I assure you, is long and illustrious. Kamla divides her time living in the remote Himalayas and in San Diego, California, with her husband, the artist, Payson R. Stevens. Please join me in welcoming Kamla Kapur. You're welcome. Thank you. In conversation with Kamla today is Shivi Legha, an art historian with a master's degree in art history from the Punjab University under the guidance of the renowned Dr. Goswami. Her interests are in Indian miniature paintings and terracotta sculptures of Rajasthan. She has an abiding interest in the dyeing art of Fulkari textiles of Punjab and in the Janamsakhi paintings. She has given a number of written and given numerous lectures, seminars, and has workshops on Indian art, both in the US and India. Shivi is a resident of the Bay Area, and she lives here with her husband and 3 children. Please join me in welcoming Shivi Legha.
And I take this opportunity to welcome you once again. We're all very excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Shivi.
Like we all know, you were, of course, born and raised in India as a Sikh, but have lived the major part of your adult life here in the States. You bring with you a unique perspective as to how life has changed here. I've been having trouble with my throat.
So have I.
So excuse me. The major part of your adult life was here. When you came here, America was not as multicultural as it is today, a truly melting pot. Today, we've moved on. We have people from all spheres, and you've seen it changing. Here, we talk about Nanak, the charismatic Sufi saint, philosopher, poet, a complex man, born in a simple time. A very gifted musician. He was born at a time when there was extensive interaction between 2 great faiths, the Hinduism of India and Islam of the invaders. He tried to reconcile the two. At a time when travel was difficult, he traveled way beyond India and wove the magic of his love for the Supreme. Everywhere he traveled, he founded Sikhism and became the first of 10 teachers. Today, Sikhism is the 5th largest religion around the world. At this point, I'd like to ask you one very obvious question. What led you to writing this book? And like we already discussed, there are many Janamsakhis. The most popular ones include Nanak and his 2 companions, Bala and Mardana. So why has Bala been left out of your book? And why have you given these stories a new twist?
Well, I left Bala out of the stories because when you're writing a book, you have to be very selective. You have to pick and choose those things and those elements and characters that your subconscious picks. You have to have the liberty to do that. And it's very essential to reinterpret religious truths for one's own age. And they have to be reinterpreted, they have to be conveyed in a medium that will convey itself to modern life and how something relates to us today. His Sikhism is not just a historic phenomena. It is obviously alive and thriving today, but the younger generation has sort of lost track of the spirit of Sikhism. And so I felt it was very essential to give life to the Janamsakhis in a way that conveyed the eternal newness of Sikh philosophy and Sikh principles. So, and the reason why I wrote this book is because Sikhism is very eclectic at heart. If you look at the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, it includes Hindu saints, it includes Sufi saints, it cuts across all the caste and class barriers of India that were existent at that time. And Guru Nanak's message is very relevant today, that the light of the beloved being shines in each one of us. It cuts through class, it cuts through caste, it cuts through race. There is only one human race on this planet, and that is the human race. So I think these essential truths are what led me to write the book. Besides, I grew up with Guru Nanak. I have always adored and loved him, although I didn't know enough about him. And the research and the writing, the process of writing the book, in the process of writing it, I got to know him better and fall in love with him all over again. I live by his word. I live by his words. And Guru Nanak was a great believer in words. He considered himself the minstrel of God. He says, I was just an unemployed minstrel till the beloved being called me to his court and adorned me in the robes of his praise and gave me the words to speak. So he considers himself a poet above all else. Hontadi vekar kare laya. And he says that and Guru Nanak is not shy, is unforgivingly honest about himself and his humanness. In fact, he's great not because, despite his humanness, but through his humanness. which is relevant and important for all of us today, because we are all human. He bridges our humanity and our divinity. He has told us that we are all human and that we are all divine. And his is a path that shows us how to transcend, how to express, first of all our humanity, and move from that, not through our own efforts, although our efforts cannot be belittled, but through the grace of this huge mystery personified that we call God, or we call by the many names that we call it. But it is essentially a mystery that we do not know, we cannot name, though it is accessible to us through all the names we give it. It is palpably present. It is everywhere. And it isn't everywhere external to us. It is everywhere, first of all, intrinsically within us. We are God made manifest. We can allow that light to shine forth, provided we know how to think. And the gurus teach us how to think. We all know, we say it in the modern world, we say attitude is everything. The gurus teach us what attitude to have, how to live, how to think, so that we can follow the path to our divinity. So all of these things were important to me when I wrote this book. I explored the secularity of Sikhism, because in essence, Sikhism is very secular, not only because, as Nikki pointed out, it teaches us to live wholly, to live our lives wholly. Both W-H-O-L-L-Y and H-O-L-Y. And that every aspect of our life is holy. There are no exclusions. So I explored the essential truths of Sikhism of Hinduism through Ganesha Goes to Lunch, and the essential truths of the mystical branch of Islam, which is Sufism, till I discovered the mother lode of all my materials, which is Sikh history and Sikh gurus and Sikh characters.
You've already answered a part of my second question, but which was, how do we practice Nanak's theory, philosophy in today's world? And how does it impact your life?
Well, you know, I'm only going to talk about, there are many messages that Guru Nanak has bequeathed us, and I'm going to only talk about one, because there isn't time to go through all of it. You know, Guru Nanak is a great believer in hukam. Hukam, which I will translate as the cosmic will, or as the cosmic order. And what is the cosmic order, and how does it apply to us in our daily lives? The cosmic order, or the cosmic will, or God's will, if you choose, I shy away from using the word God, because we've made the word God very small, and we've put God in a box. When Guru Nanak breaks open that box and makes us inherit the whole universe, because Guru Nanak, you know, was an expression of the whole universe. He left nothing out of his concept of God. So, to come back to your question, and hukam, or the cosmic will, it is that aspect of our lives that we cannot change. Now, there are many things in our lives that we can change, and we must change them, because we have been given the power to change them. But that which we cannot change about our lives is the cosmic will, and has to be accepted. And accepted totally, surrendered to, willingly. Not just thy will be done, but thy will be sweet. What do you mean by that? That whatever you can't change has a sweetness about it, and I've experienced it in my own life. That which I have accepted unconditionally has given me gifts, even though it might have appeared to me as tragic. Something that could potentially have ruined me, but which has not only sustained me, but helped me grow as an individual and has sweetened my life. So that's just one instance.
So Nanak says, live within family. Yet he was traveling, leaving his family alone. He left his wife, his children to travel. The impact was that both the children went in two different paths. The elder son, Sri Chand, started the Udasi movement, dramatically different from what Nanak was preaching, completely different in its philosophy. Do you think he was fair to his family?
Well, you know, this is a question I explore in the second book, which is complete. The second book deals with a lot of the women I left out in the first book. It's very female-centric, and I have explored this question in some depth. Sulakshmi, Guru Nanak's wife, is a major character in the second book, and accuses Guru Nanak of all the things that we could possibly accuse him of, which is that you abandoned your family, and how his sons must have felt living with an absent father. But you know, the question is that in each of us, in following our own inevitable destiny, must sometimes hurt others. And there is a great scene in the second book where Sulakshmi, I mean, there's the painting of Guru Nanak going around the fire to do his peras during the wedding, but the story is after midway through the ceremony, he pulled Sulakshmi away and said, "What is fire that I should circumambulate it when I am in love with the Lord of fire, with the Lord of the universe?" So he, at every step, he thwarted convention. At every step, he revolted against his Hindu roots. So this is a question that I explore in the second book, so I'm not going to go into it in any detail.
And what is your favorite story in this book, and why?
Well, almost all of them are my favorite story, because that's why I wrote about them. You know, I have a lot of favorite stories, but when I was writing the book, I didn't know how to string them together. And so I had to find a meta-narrative, a super-narrative to string them all together. I saw them as individual beads, and that they needed, and I'm a beader, so, you know, if you have a necklace that only has beads, then they fall apart and they go everywhere. So you need that string, and I found that string in Mardana. Now, Mardana in the folk traditions of Punjab is on the human end of the spectrum from human to divine, and he's fallible like all of us. You know, he's full of all the vices that we can think of. You know, and the two main stories that are the underpinning of this long novel. The first one is the one in which Mardana becomes a goat. You know, and Mardana becomes a goat because, you know, he's sick of being away from home, and he wants to be with his wife. He wants sex, and so he says he's going to find it wherever he can, and he finds it in the land of these enchantresses who convert him into a goat. You know, and so he's put in the pen with the other goats, and he decides he's going to while away everybody's time. He's going to tell all the stories of Guru Nanak, and some invented ones, and some traditionally from the Janamsakhis, to the other goats, so that they can learn how to overcome their goatness and move from being animals first to being humans and what it means to be human. And Guru Nanak says that being human is one of the greatest gifts anybody could possibly give us. And then from there to moving towards divinity, towards exploring and expressing our divinity. So the two stories, first he becomes a goat and tells these stories to the other goats. And the second is Janamsakhi, in which Mardana is given a bundle of things. I don't want to take too long. He's given a bundle of things to, people give him a bundle of things, and Guru Nanak, of course, travels with no burdens at all. He's taken care of. You know, the Supreme Being takes care of him. And he says to Mardana says, what will happen if we don't have food tomorrow? We don't have shelter tomorrow. So, Mardana sort of, Guru Nanak says to him, mat manjane kal. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about tomorrow. Live in the moment. So, but in my story, Mardana doesn't throw away his bundle. And his bundle is not just food and things. His bundle is treasure he finds. Because that's the other of his desires, to become very wealthy. He doesn't want to be just the minstrel of a guru. You know, he doesn't want the wealth that spirituality offers. He wants the literal wealth. And all the limitations that imposes. So Guru Nanak tells him to throw it all away, but he sews it up in the hems of his robe, and he travels, very heavily through the whole story, trying to make sure robbers don't get his wealth, and trying to make sure that, he preserves it through all of that. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and read a part of that story. And Sylvia, if you'll just give me that image, what Nikki said about image and word is image feeds word. This story came to me from this particular image, which unfortunately is not from the Kapani collection, but something I came across in Dr. Goswami's book and in the Chandigarh Museum of Art. And the only thing that this said was that Mardana gets swallowed by a big fish, and then he is regurgitated on land and where Guru Nanak is. So I'm going to read, if that's okay.
Sure.
Don't want to go more than my allotted time. And the only little episode you need to know here is that for 13 years, Guru Nanak, after he got married, was living the ordinary life. He was an accountant with Sultan, Daulat Khan Lodi, measuring out grain and giving it to people, and of course, being very generous with it. And the climax of his, and of course everybody, Mardana is very happy, Sulakhani is very happy, his parents are very happy. Guru Nanak is finally towing the line. He's leading the ordinary life that most of us lead. And so, and an episode occurs when he is measuring out the grain, and there's always, of course, beggars and people around him, because he always gives his portion of grains away. And he comes to the word 13, which in Punjabi is tera. But tera also means yours. So he's measuring it out, and he gets stuck on tera, yours. All this grain and all this stuff that belongs to this Lord belongs to all of us. It's yours. So he starts doling it all out. Tera, he says, tera, 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 and he gives it all away. And of course, the conclusion of that story is the big lord comes and finds that his granaries are even fuller than they were before. So this story, and I'm only going to read portions of it, and I'm going to give you the background to the story. So he finally comes, Guru Nanak is going to board a ship, and Mardana, of course, is trying to get away from Guru Nanak. He wants to get away with all his treasure. So so that he can lead a rich life. But of course, Guru Nanak knows all of this and keeps an eye on him and gets him on board. And as soon as they're on board, a huge storm comes up. And Guru Nanak and Mardana starts fearing for his life, and he thinks, oh my God, is all of this, am I going to drown now because I disobeyed Guru Nanak? I've got all these jewels in my hems, and am I going to drown? So he's telling these stories to the goats, and so he decides that he's going to take his robe and throw it away because life is more precious to him than all the wealth. And Guru Nanak comes on board and says, all these people are frightened. Mardana, Rabab Chhed, awaken your Rabab. Let us sing. So at almost all the worst experiences of Mardana, he is awoken by Guru Nanak, who says, awaken your Rabab, let's sing. So, because singing is at the heart of Sikhism, because singing is the conduit from the brain to the heart. And it takes us away from our brain where we try to figure it all out. And Guru Nanak always says, you can't figure it out. Don't try to figure it out. It's greater than us. Be in your heart. So Guru Nanak sings, Jap tap ka band bedala, jit lange vahela, which means really that embark on the raft of meditation and self-discipline, and there will be no ocean, no storms, or raging waves. Your path will always be easy and pleasant. So, of course, all right. So, and of course, Mardana says, I couldn't feel a word that he was singing because, my ears were plugged up by my ego. I was only thinking how I wanted to save my life and my jewels. So what he does is he takes his robe when he's afraid he's going to drown, and that's going to be the end of everything. He throws it in the ocean. And the goats, of course, oh my God, you carried it through the whole book and you threw it away. And Mardana, of course, says, this isn't the end of the story. Just go, listen to me. So he throws it away, and at once the ocean becomes calm. And instead of thinking that, my God, Guru Nanak was right, Mardana says, fool, fool, you threw away your treasure for nothing. You could have had it all. So he thought he's lost it. But of course, he sees his robe floating right next to the ship. So he says, God wants to give me my treasure and my life. So what he takes is he takes his rabab and he dives into the ocean, and he, of course, there are a million things, slips of the, between the cup and the lips. So he reaches for it, it goes away, reaches for it, goes away, and then finally he gets it. He says, oh God, I found my treasure. But just when he's found it, he is swallowed by a whole big fish. And of course it reminded me a little bit of Jonah. So he's swallowed by this fish, and he says, I am not going to surrender to this. God is protecting me. I'm going to kill this big fish, and I'm going to survive. And so he, excuse me while I get my water. So he is swallowed, and everywhere around him he hears the words, surrender, surrender, surrender. And Mardana refuses to surrender. You know, he doesn't want to surrender. He wants to surrender only to his desires. So, and then suddenly, through all his efforts to survive in the belly of the fish, he hears suddenly the episode of Guru Nanak saying, Tera, Tera, Tera. It's all yours. It's all yours. It's all yours. So, and of course, he ultimately ends up surrendering. And this is the climax, because this is from this time onwards, Mardana gets it. He gets it. So, I was going to read from the book, but I decided to tell the story instead. But I will read the very last portion of it. The fish, of course, he gets entangled in this fishing line in the belly, in the belly of the fish, and it becomes a metaphor for how all of us are trapped till we surrender. Can you hear me at the back there? Okay. So the belly, and what does the fish do? The fish takes him to where Guru Nanak is sitting on the banks and singing. And so he's regurgitated on the shore, and he says, celestial music poured into my newly birthed ears like Amrit, the ambrosia of the gods. It was as though I had been birthed into a new world. Dewdrops were glistening on the emerald palm trees like diamonds in all their fiery colors. The sun was pouring its sweet, warm, golden light on me, and I was in total bliss, and not a thought or question remained in my head. When I eventually turned towards the source of the music, there was Baba, he calls Guru Nanak Baba, sitting on the sands with a few others, singing. The sight of Baba, the sound of his bani, his music and his words, the touch of the sun upon my skin, warm and sweet like honey, and the smell of the sweet air caressing me like a mother were heaven. I was alive, newly birthed from the womb of death, and listening to Baba's precious, precious voice as he sang the song of the fish. So I'm going to sing the song of the fish, and I'm going to just tell you that I'm not a professional singer. I'm pretty amateur, and it has, I'm basically self-taught, and I find that every time, I go through, as all of us must, go through crises in our lives, and that's the other thing that Guru Nanak always says, is that crises are opportunities. Suffering, dukh daru. Suffering is a tonic. Suffering is the greatest tonic you can have for your health, if you're open to the suffering, and if you accept it, and if you surrender to that suffering. Everybody suffers. Guru Nanak suffered. In my second book, he suffers a lot. When Sulakshmi gives it to him, she just tells him, where were you when I really needed you? You were out traveling. It's a really female point of view. So, And in this shabad that I'm going to sing, I just want to give you a little background, a little. I hope you've picked up the translation that was on the at the back there. Guru Nanak returns to the mystery that bounds life. You know, the mystery that we forget as we live our day-to-day life. We are not aware. We don't go through life in an aware way. We forget that we are about to die, for example. We forget how small we are. We forget that we forget that we contain the mystery. If the fish is in water, the water is in the fish. We forget all the essential truths of our lives. And so, to keep them in mind, Guru Nanak and all the Gurus talk about awakening. Jaag leho. Awaken. That's what we're here to do. We're here to awaken from the slumber our lives have become. So, he says in this, and to come back to the mystery, Guru Nanak admits he doesn't know. He says, I'm just a little fish in the river that you are. How can I know everything? And he says, you know, you witness me wherever I am. If God is within us and all around us, then even our thoughts are heard by the Creator. You know, I try to deny them. I run away. But you're everywhere. So, you know, I mean, to admit this about himself and yet transcend this. So, to know that we do not know is how we become wise. There's a wonderful story with Socrates, who is told by the oracle at Delphi that he's the wisest man in Greece, and he can't understand why he's so wise. So he interviews all the wise people in Greece, and he realizes that he is wise because all the other wise people think they know. They have all the answers. And Socrates admits he doesn't know. You know, that's the other thing in addition to hukam that has helped me live. I mean, as soon as you're planning, you think, when will this happen? What happens if I do this? What happens if I make this choice? What happened? You know, we're always plotting and scheming in our minds. But if we can sit back and say, I do not know the outcome of this. I know nothing. You are relieved of all your stress. You know, you're relieved of the heavy burdens we carry through our lives. So that's another.
So Kamla, at this point,
yes,
if you could go back in time and ask Nanak some questions, what would they be?
He's answered all of them for me. He's answered all my questions. Okay.
Let's hear the shabad. Let's hear the shabad.
Okay. So, you know, I just want to tell you that there is a tradition in Sikhism that you don't clap after a shabad. Of course, I'm using this as an excuse not to not know that you are going to clap or not. But, you know, whether you are, so, but you know, you don't, because it's a prayer. And you don't clap for a prayer. It is a way to go inward, and it's a way to examine yourself. And you know, Guru Nanak's shabads are at once stimulating and calming, and they get you to the stillness that we all seek. So, I hope that in any small way, I'll be able to give you just a little bit of a taste from the smorgasbord that is Guru Nanak. working now? जिसकारी सो तेरे तू देखे हो मुकर पाऊं तेरे कामना तेरे नाए तू दरिया हो दाना बीना मैं मछली कैसे अंत लाऊं जय जय देखा तै तै तू है तुझसे निकसी फूट मरा जेता देते ता हो खाऊं बिया दर नहीं के दर जाऊं जेता देते ता हो खाऊं बिया दर नहीं के दर जाऊं तू दरिया हो दाना बीना मैं मछली कैसे अंत लाऊं जय जय देखा तै तै तू है तुझसे निकसी फूट मरा नानक एक करी अरदास नानक एक करी अरदास जियो पिंड सब तेरे पास नानक एक करी अरदास जियो पिंड सब तेरे पास तू दरिया हो दाना बीना दाना बीना मैं मछली कैसे अंत लाऊं मैं मछली कैसे अंत